Welcome to Consider Yourself Hugged, a place to find comfort and support as you navigate your mental and emotional well-being. So sit back and relax, unless you're driving, and get ready for this week's hug. Yeah. Well, what else do you want to say about burnout?
I don't think anything. I think I'm done.
Well, I think I think it was good to partner this with compassion fatigue, um, because there's still, for me, everything lives under that mental health umbrella, and as far as self-care and just recognizing what's going on in your life. And I started reading that chart just a little bit, like Michelle talked about burnout resulting from chronic workplace stress and an overwhelming workload. So that can be in your home as a parent, in your job, whereas compassion fatigue results from prolonged exposure to the suffering of others. And I wanted to read three more differences, and just then I want to give you an interesting new take on compassion fatigue. So burnout is linked to exhaustion and detachment, but it's not necessarily empathy related. And so, if we're defining things, empathy is the ability to feel someone else's emotions, to really kind of connect with them. Burnout isn't necessarily empathy related, but compassion fatigue is related to empathy and emotional exhaustion from helping others. Okay, now back to burnout. Symptoms you talked about: fatigue, reduced performance, cynicism. Whereas with compassion fatigue, it can be emotional numbness, irritability, detachment. And the example that I'll just, taking care of my mom. So, I was definitely burned out from working and then trying to take care of her, but also it was just this, I'm done. You know, I'm constantly dealing with this suffering. And then finally, burnout. I think this is a really important distinction too, can occur in any profession, especially just high workload environments. And compassion fatigue is more common among caregivers, healthcare, volunteers, or anybody who's in a role of, like, their job involves caring, listening to people. Okay, so far so good?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to go one step further. This is so I will post a video in the show notes, and the guy's name is Gabriel. I can't remember his last name. I have notes everywhere. Give me a second. Let's see. That was burnout. I had all the different things that I wanted to make sure that I talked about with compassion fatigue. Oh, there it is. Okay. So this guy Gabriel talks about, he says there is no such thing as compassion fatigue, because when people talk about compassion fatigue, they define it as um, they define it as feeling emotional exhaustion due to caring too much. That's basically how people define it. So he's like, basically what he means is it's misnamed, that it's really more of empathy fatigue than compassion fatigue. And the reason he says is that we we are wired and designed to be a caring species. So you can't really care too much. The problem happens when we don't care for ourselves. So that's kind of what he's saying, is that when we care about other people to the exclusion of caring for ourselves, that's when we get into trouble. Does that make sense so far?
Yes.
Okay. So then let's go into empathy versus compassion. And this is where, and then I am going to kind of just wrap it up and give a few ideas. But empathy, definitionally, is the ability to feel and understand another person's emotions. And that is important to have empathic relationships with other people. Michelle and I have that, where I feel her feelings and she feels my feelings. But there has to be, we don't carry it around. Compassion is the desire to alleviate another person's suffering. Okay, now let me do empathy as an emotional response involves deeply feeling what another person is experiencing. So I know when Michelle is having a struggle, we talk about a lot of different things, and I do feel that. Compassion is acknowledging that suffering and focusing on action. And that's what really, and I just want to give a quick example. Um, Empathy is feeling, and that's where we tend to get in trouble because we just carry it and carry it and carry it. But compassion is about an action. So when the fires were happening in California a few weeks ago, and Tim, my husband, was just playing them like on the news all day long. Well, we've been through a house fire, and my sister-in-law, they lost their whole community in 2017 in Northern California. And so I'm just watching it and I'm like, oh my gosh, these poor people. And so I'm feeling empathy, right? I'm like, oh my gosh, this must. Well, I didn't realize that this is what was happening. But finally, I was like, okay, what do I do? What do I do? And I gave to the Red Cross, which is an action that I can take to try to help those people without carrying the burden and the feeling. And you talk about that, Michelle, when I ask you, if you don't mind talking about this, when I ask you how you keep from, like, how you do your job without just being upset all the time. Do you remember what you've told me?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Just like in the beginning, kind of realizing that, like, that it doesn't benefit someone for me to just feel bad for them or to feel their feelings. Like, that's not why they're there. They're there for a particular reason, and like they need me to do XYZ to help. And so it's actually, I have found it would, it's a hindrance if I do like take on all those emotions. So you can definitely like listen, be compassionate, do what you need to do, be, solution focused without incorporating everyone's feelings. Because again, that's not what they need, and that's not helpful.
And that was so powerful when you told me that because so example with Michelle and I's relationship, sometimes it's just empathy. We just need to talk, we just need to feel each other's feelings. But then sometimes it is just compassion. What can I do? How can I help? How can I? And to remember that difference in your job
Mhm.
can just be life changing. I mean, Michelle, you've done what you do for how many years now?
So I've been a mental health nurse practitioner for over 8 years now, and I've worked in mental health for 10, and I worked in nursing for a couple of years before that. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure you have your moments. I mean, I know you do. But overall, I have to believe part of the reason you're still in it is because you kind of understand that difference between feeling somebody's feelings and helping them.
Oh,
And it's
yeah.
a
I mean,
big difference.
you kind of have to establish that in the beginning in order to, and not to say like everyone has those moments where the situation is kind of above the level of where you are with that at the moment. But overall,
Overall.
establish that, okay, what does this person need me to do? Because it's not about me, it's about them.
Yeah. Well, I've just noticed that a lot of the things that I read about compassion fatigue say things like, it's because you care too much. It's because you care too much. But there's not, it's like, no, we got to go a little bit deeper because we're always going to care. I mean, at least if we're in a helping role, that's probably why we're there. And I think one of the things that will show you that the difference here. So I read you the burnout quiz. Now let's do the compassion fatigue quiz and then just a few tips because a lot of what Michelle has said is going to apply. So I'm going to read these fast, but these are just yes or no. And so even if you don't have it in front of you, you're just going to, what I would do is just count the number of yeses. That'll be easier. And there's 10, I think. Um, yeah, I think there's 10. So number one, do you feel burdened by the suffering of others more than usual? You just feel like you're carrying that weight around. Number two, have you noticed a decrease in your empathy toward others? And that's like that numbness. Number three, do you find yourself feeling irritable or impatient when working with others? Number four, have you experienced a sense of isolation from your peers or loved ones recently? So you're just like withdrawing. Number five, do you feel less pleasure in activities that you previously enjoyed? So you can see there's a little bit of overlap, but we've asked questions about the burden of suffering. Number six, do you have trouble sleeping? falling asleep or staying asleep, which was in the other one. Number 7, have you noticed an increase in intrusive thoughts about others' trauma or others' issues? Number 8, do you find yourself using negative coping mechanisms, overeating, alcohol, things to self-soothe? And by the way, you all know there's no judgment here. This is just yes or no. Number 9, do you feel hopeless or helpless about your ability to help others? And number 10, have you thought about leaving your profession due to emotional overwhelm?
A
So
lot of the
again,
questions overlap. Yeah, a lot of them
yes.
are overlapping.
Yeah, there's overlap, but then there's the specific parts about like the burdens of others and the thoughts of others, but that's why we wanted to do these together. So again, just a broad place to start, but 0 to 2 yes responses probably indicates a lower risk of compassion fatigue. 3 to 5 yeses might be indicative of a moderate risk, and 6 to 10 yes responses might be indicative of a high risk. So, so much overlap between the two, but just trying to remember that compassion fatigue more involves, and I'm going to go ahead and call it compassion fatigue just because it's the name that we use, but just trying to remember I think Dr. Matei's view is just that that there's not really a such thing, that it's misnamed, that empathy fatigue would be a better name, but the whole issue is not taking care of yourself. And one of the things I don't know if you and we talk so much about things other than just on the podcast, but so I don't remember if we talked about the Green Cross Academy of Traumatology. I know you and I have, but I don't remember
I
if we
don't think
did.
we have on here.
So one of the things I'm going to post in the show notes, I just want to mention it here, give you a few tips, but please go and read it. The Green Cross Academy of Traumatology is a group of volunteers that might go out and volunteer in, and I think they work in like mental and physical health. So it might be nurses, it might be counselors, and they go out when disasters happen, things like that. And I want to read just this paragraph about their guidelines. So the purpose of the guidelines is what I'm going to read to you, and then we'll post the guidelines. And it says, as with the standards of practice in any field, the practitioner is required to abide by standards of self-care. That almost makes me want to cry. Required to take care of themselves. These guidelines are used by all members. The purpose is twofold. First, do no harm to yourself in the line of duty when you're helping or treating others. So, safety, whatever that means, do no harm. And second, attend to your physical, social, emotional, and spiritual needs as a way of ensuring high quality services to those who look to you for support as a human being. Now, I'm going to put with that from my own perspective is so it says attend to your physical, social, emotional, and spiritual needs so that you can take care of others. And that's because it's a workplace guideline. But I also want to just say do that. Take care of yourself so that you can be healthy as well. And so that you don't go down that road of um, burnout and empathy fatigue.
Mhm.
And then I have a couple of things to do to help with that. And what do I have in here? I thought I had more than that. Give me 1 second. Huh. Okay. I may have to just cut this part out. Thought I had printed out. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but they're very fast. To prevent or come back from compassion, empathy, fatigue. Number 1 is engage in regular self-care activities. And what I call it is incorporate the minute, hour, day planning every day. And what that means is, what could I do if I just have 1 minute? I can walk outside, close my eyes, and feel the wind. I can set a timer. What could I do if I had an hour or less? Can I go take a bath? Which is what I'm doing when I leave you all. Can I just walk around? And then what could I do if I had a day or longer? For example, our retreat. It takes planning. So this is like low, medium, high effort, right? But if we don't
Yes.
think about it and plan it, it won't happen.
Mhm.
Um, Number two is professional support. We always encourage that and implement the for some, for others, for me language, which is for some people experiencing compassion fatigue or burnout, self care is enough. Talking to friends is enough. For others, it is not, and they need more. And there's so much professional out there, professional help. For me, what do I need and who do I need to help me on that path? Number three, peer support. Adopt the if we build it, they will come mentality. So, in your organization, wherever you are, or in your home, build something. And it might be slow. So, what I mean is, like when I taught high school, there was another teacher and I who noticed that new teachers were suffering. And we started a mentoring program, which grew slowly. So, if there's something that you feel would help you and your peers, do that. I'm going to keep going. Okay.
Yeah.
Number four is education. And so keep top of mind, and this came from Michelle, learning plus engagement equals change. So we both, she said it, and when we did our positive psychology course, she said, if we don't engage, we will not grow, we will not change, we will not learn. So please don't just listen, but engage. This is my brilliant friend. Number five is positivity, which just remember things like laughing often, gratitude, things that will incorporate more positively. Put it on your calendar, subscribe to a joke of the day. And the last thing that takes us right into not only positivity, but flat out humor. We know that the type of humor that makes you think, makes you smarter, a better decision maker, a better problem solver, and it releases endorphins and it makes you healthier.
Makes life more fun.
And it makes life more fun. Michelle and I learned about ourselves during our positive psychology series that we don't have enough fun. And so
Mhm.
we're working on it, right?
Yes. We're doing better. We're doing so
We
much better.
we are. And when we were down in Orange Beach, I can finally say it out loud because I didn't want my husband to know because I told him I hate massages. We got a massage. I tried one more time because I've gotten like five, 4 or 5 in my life, and I hated them all. It was amazing. So I bought us a couples massage to go, and
Oh, was he excited?
he was excited. Yes.
Yay.
I mean, we did. We walked on the beach, we laughed, we had a great time. So find those human connections and laugh often.
Yes.
So this is definitely two parts.
Yes.
Okay. And I think we had a nice little transition there in the middle when we went from burnout to compassion fatigue. So,
Yes. I think so.
all right. Well, that's all I have. How about you?
Yep. No, that's it.
Okay. Well, I hope you all are enjoying the new show notes. We are going to get to the point sometime soon where we rebrand a little bit, and, bring all of Michelle's stuff back on. But it's just a slow process. But we have been using AI to take our transcript, help us generate it, put some cute little emojis in there, and it also tells me the links that we promised to you. So just bear that in mind as we go forward to our AI with helping you with just mental and emotional well-being. So rate, download, follow us in our Facebook group. Tell us what you'd like to hear more of. Go buy that book, Sylvia Plath. The Bell. What is wrong with me? I can't. What did
The
I say?
bell jar.
The Bell Jar. The
Yeah.
Bell Jar. Okay. And that's all we got. So
Until next time,
consider yourself.
yourself hugged.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.